Well, as regular as it gets in our town. I was hanging out with my buddies, playing video games, cracking jokes, the usual. Then came the text from my friend Ethan. It was short, just, "You gotta check this out." Now, Ethan was the type who'd stumble upon something creepy on the deep web and send it to the group chat, expecting us to freak out. I almost didn't bother reading it, but for whatever reason I did. There was a link to a local news story, and I clicked it because, curiosity and all that. The headline caught my eye immediately. Serial killer claims fourth victim in quiet suburbs. My stomach dropped. I read on. The fourth victim. All the others were women, average, everyday people. Nothing special. But the chilling part? The killer had been leaving notes behind. Handwritten, scrawled in a twisted, almost poetic way. The police had no leads. The only thing they knew for sure? The killer's obsession with their victims. But no one knew why or what drove him. I shot a quick reply to Ethan. "Dude, this is crazy. Did they catch him?" His response came in fast. "No, but they're starting to think it's someone local, someone we might know." That's when the hair on the back of my neck stood up. Because here's the thing. I live in a small town. Like, really small. Everyone knows everyone. You think you'd know if there was a killer among you, right? But then I remembered. A couple of weeks ago, my neighbor, James, had been acting a little off. Now, James wasn't the kind of guy who'd be considered normal by the standards of your average suburban dad. He'd always kept to himself, which was fine. But there were times when I'd catch him staring out his window, almost like he was waiting for something, or someone. That night, I decided to investigate. Not in any professional sense, I'm not a cop, but more like a kid with a hunch. You know how it is. You hear something sketchy, and suddenly every little detail becomes suspicious. I texted Ethan back. "I'm going to check something out. I'll keep you posted." I grabbed my jacket, threw on my sneakers, and headed for James's house. It was only a couple of blocks away, but it felt like miles. The moon was almost full, so the streets were bathed in this eerie light, casting long shadows along the sidewalks. Everything felt off. The next day, the news hit again. Another victim. Same pattern. Same handwritten note left at the scene. This time, though, they had a new clue. A black hoodie found near the body. And that's when it clicked in my head. James always wore that black hoodie. He never went anywhere without it. Now, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Was I just putting the pieces together in my head because of the stories I'd been hearing? Or was I actually onto something? Either way, I couldn't let it go. So I decided to do what any curious 19-year-old would do. I went back to James's house. This time I wasn't playing around. I knocked on his door, figuring it was better to confront him head-on. After what felt like an eternity, the door creaked open, and there he was, James, looking disheveled, his eyes red like he hadn't slept in days. "Hey man, what's up?" I asked, trying to sound casual, though my heart was racing in my chest. James looked me up and down, a flicker of something crossing his face. Fear, maybe, or something darker. He didn't say anything for a moment, just stood there, staring. Then he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "You shouldn't be here." That hit me like a punch to the gut. My instincts screamed that I needed to leave, but something kept me rooted to the spot. I wanted to ask him about the killer, about the notes, but the words wouldn't come out. I could feel the tension building between us, thick and suffocating. James stepped back, his face contorting into a twisted grin. "You're not scared, are you?" he asked, stepping closer. And that's when I saw it. A piece of paper sticking out of his pocket. A crumpled note. My blood went cold as I read the handwriting. It was the same as the ones found at the crime scenes. Before I could react, he shoved me back, and I stumbled out of the doorway, heart pounding. "You're not supposed to know, kid. he muttered as I turned and ran. "You shouldn't have come." I didn't stop running until I was back home, my chest heaving, hands shaking. I called the cops, told them everything, but by the time they got there, James was gone. The house was empty, like he had never existed. The police think I made it all up. They didn't find anything. But I know what I saw. I know what I felt. The killer was one of us.